Hello and welcome to the Bytes of Intelligence podcast. I'm your host, Yash, Shah, and this is a show where we explore fascinating topics with incredible guests. Whether it's technology, upcoming trends, finance, science, entrepreneurship, or just life itself, we dive deep and let the conversation flow naturally. Every episode will be a short 20-30 minute chat where we not only get to speak to our guests, but also learn about their insights and stories that hopefully inspire you, spark your curiosity, and leave you with some great takeaways. So join me as we learn from experiences, advice, and the wisdom of those making an impact in the world. Let's get started. So this week is our first episode, and it's my honor to welcome Parth Khanna. He's my friend since day one at Imperial. So Parth, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. So I am a second year student at Imperial. I'm studying electronics and computer engineering. And so far it's been fun. I've enjoyed every moment of it. And it's an honor to be here, of course. It's on Yash's first podcast session. So it's absolutely amazing.
Thank you very much, Parth. So do you just want to say where you're from, where you've grown up, and kind of a bit of your journey of why you chose electrical engineering or electrical and computer engineering?
Yeah, sure. So I am from Leeds in the UK, but originally from India, Dehradun. So my family's from there. So I can imagine summers growing up there. It's absolutely fantastic. But in terms of my journey to Imperial, so it started when I was in sixth form. In sixth form, I used to just research. It was just fun, right? So I used to research, go into whatever I was interested in. If it sparked curiosity, I would probably go down that line. It was awesome. And I would just keep doing that. At the time, it was mainly for physics-related stuff. But as I grew older, I kept going into more and more detail because I could understand more maths, more physics.
Yeah.
And I mean, Imperial wasn't, to be honest, Imperial wasn't something that I aimed to be at. It was just a place where I could access all these resources. And that then became a name for me after knowing all about Imperial. So I think
it wasn't like since day one you were like, Imperial is the only university. It was just, where can I access my resources and kind of expand myself? And Imperial happened to be that place where...
Yeah, exactly. And after coming to Imperial, of course, this happens with every student. So the first week, the first month, the first couple of months, semester, it's always quite hard on a student.
Mm-hmm.
But as we keep going, life does get better. You do make friends. They always say when you're going to study academics, concentrate on academics, or it's told in loads of Indian families. But it is also important to understand that there is the social aspect outside of academia. Which, thanks to great friends like you, I've able to come over.
No, definitely. I think I could say likewise. I think for me it was, so I do computer science. And I think it was always a university which I'd heard of. So Imperial, everyone's heard of the name as, the STEM university. So for me it was between, Oxbridge or Imperial or Warwick, UCL. Those are all the unis I was looking at. But I think when I got into Imperial and I really read a bit more about the research part of it and the industry focused part, that's kind of what's made me excited. And obviously we're only halfway there, but it's been incredible so far. But yeah, you mentioned the social side is equally, if not more important.
Yeah.
Tell me about Parth outside of electrical engineering. What does Parth like to do?
So from quite a young age, I've been playing cricket a lot. I used to play for my school. I used to go to Hacks Grammar School, so I played there. And I also swam.
Okay.
I swam competitively for quite a number of years.
Very nice.
But I think those are the two main things. I enjoyed playing sport outside anyway. That was cool. But in terms of sports and stuff, that was probably it.
Nice. Very nice. And anything else? It doesn't have to be sport. Anything else that, you just like to do in your free time? I know you're curious. You always like to be you're always building things or telling me about a project you made or something.
Yeah, doing projects are quite fun. So cybersecurity, for example. From year 12, I started looking to cybersecurity. That was a field that my dad was working quite closely to. Okay. And that just sparked some interest in me. So I wanted to understand about what cybersecurity actually is, what people actually like, why is it so interesting? Why do people actually go into it? So I researched, I understood the fundamentals of data first and networking and stuff, and how important that is when you set up networks like a LAN, WLAN,
Sure. Yeah.
that sort of stuff. And then when I went into further detail, I thought this is actually magical. Like, you can see all the data packets that are actually coming out of your computer into your computer from one network to another and back.
Right.
This is absolutely
That's
amazing.
incredible. On that point, I just want to speak about the advancement of technology, because I was thinking about this recently, that it's not too distant where computers and networks and everything didn't exist. For example, take our parents, for example. It's just literally our parents. It's not like 4 or 5 generations away. It was just our parents. When they were growing up, they wouldn't have any of this. Like, what do you think about the advancements of technology, and like, what do you think that we don't have now that the next generation will just think it's weird that we didn't have? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, it's a cool concept, right? Technology has grown exponentially. Like, literally 100 years ago, what were you doing? Nothing much, right?
I'd be working on a farm.
Industrial revolution just happened.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's all happened very recently. And I mean, a curious thought is, imagine if all of what AI has happened. In fact, AI has happened like very recently, especially during COVID.
Especially at ChatGPT, everyone says it off the tongue now, but it's only been 4 or 5 years since it's really.
Exactly. So the progression there is absolutely huge. So I was speaking to a friend the other day, and we were discussing, like, what if instead of this AI, revolution, in quotation marks, it was quantum computing, like a small quantum chip inside your phone? That would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
What are the potentials for quantum computing? And so you mentioned in our phones. How would that change the way that we do things?
I mean, okay, there's a huge access to knowledge right now, but with quantum computers, the benefits right now is that it's just super fast. You can do so much processing with that, and to be able to have that on hand with access to it whenever you want is amazing. And so what really happens, you need a refrigeration system to keep it cool and stuff.
Sure.
So to be able to do that inside a phone, that's going to be
that's a huge challenge.
Not easy at all. But it's just a thought, and it is something that maybe the future generations might think,
That's a good point. That's a great point. They might think, how did you not manage to refrigerate a quantum computer?
Yeah, exactly. Like, our parents, they were talking about going to libraries, studying from books all day.
Exactly.
Like, I read 10 books like in a term or something, in a semester.
And I guess like the kids growing up now, books are not, they're not really like a concept of, even when it was coming to the end of our, at the start of our schooling career, I think it was still there. We're coming to the end of it. Books weren't really a common thing you spoke to your friends about. It was more about, the latest, I didn't really do it, but gaming, the latest game which has come out, the latest film or app or something. I can't even imagine what it'll be like in 30, 40 years.
Yeah. And then children these days, children are small. I saw a 7-year-old do this. So just create his own Python program. And he was stuck, so he asked ChatGPT for help, and he figured out the answer.
That's amazing.
Like, in our time, we used to go and Google Stack Overflow or something. Oh my gosh. And just scroll through tons of
hundreds of different
pages.
People's thoughts and
and still it won't be fixed.
Exactly.
It takes
That's another thing I was thinking, just to make coding more accessible. Imagine just being able to code fully, properly, just on your phone. You don't need a laptop or a computer, I agree, because I've seen it coming up now. But that would change things. It means that, on the tube people read. Imagine if on the tube everyone's just learning how to code. Something like that to make it really accessible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Replit, that's played a huge part.
That's true.
So that is definitely something. But I feel like it's also a barrier that people have to overcome. When they're learning programming, people are sometimes scared of it. Like, it's something that requires a lot of hours. But once you overcome the first hour or first couple hours, it's something that you can keep going with.
Definitely.
Like, there are loads of students looking for internships. For internships, there might be coding tests or something. For coding tests, you need to prepare. Maybe that's lead code or, some other form of coding. Maybe if it's projects or something.
Right.
So it all helps in the end.
Definitely.
It's all very awesome.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to move on to a slightly different question. If you had to pick one person who's, so maybe it's someone you don't know, maybe someone you read about, who's inspired you the most, could you name that person? If you can't name that now, that's all right. But
I can. Okay. There are two people actually. One is Andre Karpathy.
okay, I've never heard of that as a person, so it'd be good
Andre Karpathy, he did a PhD from Stanford.
Okay.
And then he's gone on to do a lot of work. So he was a senior director at Tesla. He was also one of the founding members of OpenAI.
Oh, wow.
And then he left OpenAI and he went to some other company and then rejoined OpenAI a couple of years later. Now he started his own education company. And he's had a huge focus on AI. He's got in fact, if you search him online on YouTube, he's got a huge tutorial, which is absolutely amazing. He covers everything in depth on neural networks.
Wow.
And how to create your own version of ChatGPT.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That is awesome. And I mean, what I like about him is that he doesn't skip anything. Like, he covers everything in depth and in a way that you would understand it. Anyway, anyone can understand it. So it's very useful for anyone, especially who's getting started.
Exactly, yeah.
So he also does lectures. So there's a lecture on large language models.
Wow.
People ask, what are LLMs, right? So if you follow his webinars or his seminars, whatever they are, he can explain it to you in such a easy to understand way.
That's incredible.
The second person was Jonathan Weisman. He's a cybersecurity expert from RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology in US.
Okay.
And I mean, his name isn't something that you would see everywhere, but he's got over 30 certifications in cybersecurity, which is
that's crazy.
Huge.
Yeah.
And he's done so much work on cybersecurity. And to be honest, he's a person on edX. He's got a course, and I followed that when I was in year 12, and that's what led me to go into so much detail now.
That's incredible. Wow. So it's all something to do with cybersecurity that's kind of drawing you in.
Yeah.
Is that what you're hoping to get to after you graduate, do you think? Or is it too early to tell?
I mean, to be honest, over the years, it's changed. Definitely. I've fluctuated between a couple. Before it used to be I want to go into AI and stuff. But now I've realized cybersecurity is a field where I think I understand it better. And so overall, I think it's research, that sort of area where I want to go.
Okay.
Maybe if I can combine cybersecurity and AI together or something, I think that's even better.
That's incredible. If you had to describe cybersecurity in a sentence or two to someone who's... Obviously, everyone knows that we're talking about securing systems and stopping attacks, but what does that actually mean? What excites you about the actual field?
So cybersecurity, I would describe it as if someone is trying to... Okay, a better way to describe it, is protecting your system against something or someone who is maliciously trying to gain access to it.
Okay.
There are so many laws against this. So there's a Computer Misuse Act and GDPR, that's very popular. But again, at the end of the day, it's about how you can protect your data and make sure that only the people that you authorize have access to it.
Okay. So in terms of, let's say there's a hack, for example, I think the TFL website had a major cybersecurity incident recently. What would be your advice? So let's say you're speaking to the head of security for TFL.
Yeah.
And they've just experienced this, and they're solving this issue, but they need a solution that will stop this happening again, because obviously hackers have now seen this and might feel as though it's an easy place to hack and they can shut down one of the biggest infrastructures in London. What would be your advice or your questions to ask this head of cybersecurity at TFL?
I did read about this, and it was a 17-year-old that did that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't.
We're doing too many edX courses.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, for the first time I read it, it was stunning. How can a 17-year-old do this? But now I feel they were just curious at one point, right? And maybe they got too far. I haven't read the root cause analysis for this, so I'm not sure in detail what it could be. It could be a brute force attack or could be anything. But I mean, you would have to understand what has
Sure.
actually happened to be able to,
give specific advice. But if you had to overall give advice to a company which has just had a major security incident,
Mm,
what would be your like key steps to avoiding this in the future?
yeah. So after any attack, what you usually do is you need to have a failsafe, right?
Mhm.
So if you saw this CrowdStrike
Sure.
attack, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And what the problem was, CrowdStrike uses a Falcon. Falcon, I think it's an antivirus, and that operates at the kernel level.
Okay.
Kernel is one of the most lowest
Yeah.
levels that you can get.
As close to hardware
So
as you.
the problem is even a small malfunction in software. I think that was just a patch update or some minor debug or something. But the key factor is like with that, even a small malfunction can cause the entire Windows to go into blue screen of death,
Wow.
which is what happened. And for the case of TFL, I think I would, again, if there were so many accounts that were leaked as well.
Mhm.
If the one leaked, then something went wrong with so many accounts. So I think TFL should have a failsafe. They should have a manual function as well. So they have lots of Oyster card updating services,
Sure.
like kiosks and that type of thing around different stations. So I think that is definitely something that helped. But in the case that even that didn't work, then what is your backup, right?
Exactly.
Again, like systems and all these like technologies, they've developed so much, and yet we still need a manual way
Exactly.
to rely on at the end of the day.
I think that might be a worry with technology advancing in general, that
Yeah.
maybe the rate of increase in technological advancement is too great for the hardware or the hardware that can support it, maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't exactly know how to phrase that, but it's something I'm thinking that, we're expanding so much, but maybe we're forgetting the basics, that the key concepts that were introduced in the first place.
Yeah. And that's another reason why I want to go into security, because no matter how much technology advances, you need to make sure that it's kept intact, to make sure that it's even if something goes wrong, you have a failsafe to go back to.
Right.
So I think it's crucial to ensure that.
Definitely. Okay, great. So the next question I had was just, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for the next generation? So it doesn't have to be tech related, but what do you think is the biggest opportunity?
Biggest opportunity. So for this upcoming generation, they are learning a lot, first of all, like about AI, how it's, gone from zero to something huge.
Exactly.
I think first neural networks, they were designed in 1970s, but I think we didn't have much idea of what was going on. And so now this generation, they're seeing something becoming so huge from nearly what was from scratch. And so they're going to have this curiosity to be able to, do something very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to go down one or two paths. So it could be either that, or it's the fact that AI has made things so convenient for people that they're not going to want to, go into books, read, go into websites, how we like scroll through pages and pages of data. And if everything's that convenient for them, maybe they're like either, again, two streams. So either they will go on to make use of that and they will develop like record breaking things, like amazing things, or they will choose a lazy path and like nothing much will happen.
I think if I had to answer the biggest challenge, so if the question was slightly different, the biggest challenge for the next generation, that might be it. I think it's AI, even in my generation, like myself generally, my mom always says that, because I'm always asking my phone, like even reminders or little things. If my mom gives me something to buy in the shops like later that day, I'll just put it as a reminder on my phone.
Yeah.
Or a phone number. I won't try and remember it. For example, even our college ID.
Yeah.
I still haven't learned it off by heart, because I always know I can just go on my phone and check it. My dad was just telling me that in his day they would have learnt it. And it would have been the end of it. The first day they would have learnt it. I think this is just the start of it. I think with ChatGPT, you don't think about the things you're using it with. For example, if I'm writing an email nowadays, I'll write the draft myself, but 9 times out of 10, I'm now chucking it into ChatGPT to phrase better
Yeah.
before sending it off. It's just little things like that. I think we're not using our brains for the trivial things, but those trivial things could get less trivial over time, which means that you're just
Yes.
not using your brain as much.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the
absolutely.
biggest challenges for the next generation, because they're growing up with it. I think we still know that what we're doing is you shouldn't use it too much, but if you're from a
Yeah.
younger generation, you don't know that. Okay, brilliant. So I guess the last question I had is, if you could ask the listeners of this podcast to do one thing today, what would it be?
I think it would be, don't rely on AI as much.
Okay.
I think it's about, having those skills to be able to paraphrase something. If it's for a job interview, to be able to have your own skills to do that, or have curiosity, right? If you feel like there's something you're that might spark an interest for you, then go into and explore it. Whether it's cybersecurity, like how did the 17-year-old do such an attack on TFL, such a huge organization? Then go and explore it. Like there's a cybersecurity hub. There's an Instagram page for that. There's also a newsletter for that on LinkedIn.
Okay.
They do awesome like root cause analysis for that.
Okay.
Or they post about it.
Sure.
Which is awesome. So I think it's about being curious.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I think we're going to leave it there for the podcast. The first episode, a nice short one. Thank you so much, Parth, for coming on the show and just sharing your passion. I'm sure this is the first of many episodes we'll have together. But it's been lovely speaking to you, and thank you everyone listening. This is the first of many podcasts. We might change it up later. I'm still just experimenting as I go. But welcome, and thank you for staying this long for the Bytes of Intelligence podcast.
It's been awesome. Thank you so much, Yash.
Thank you, Parth. Okay, great.